Hi everyone, welcome to Dines with Ruby. In this video, we're going to be talking about a high yield savings account. Now I'm sure you've heard of this word or this concept in the last couple years because it's really kind of become a buzzword and taken the internet by storm. But if you want more information on what it really is, what are some of its pros and what are some of its cons, so that you could decide if this is something that you would be interested in, I hopefully will answer all those questions in this really short video. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So growing up, all my life, I heard save your money. Save, 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 save. Make sure you put some money away for an emergency down the road. And that's, sound financial advice because you never know, life happens. It's always good to have a safety net, a certain amount of money saved away for a rainy day. And the only way I knew how to save my money was doing what the generations above me did, or what my parents did, which is put away money into a savings account at a physical bank. Now, the generations have changed, and at the time when they put their money away, there was actually a noticeable interest. Unfortunately, in the past decade, the interest rates in the United States at physical banks have been so low that it's almost negligible. And so I realized that putting my money away at a physical bank in a savings account with almost less than 1% of interest, I was kind of holding my money hostage. It wasn't really working for me because I couldn't invest that money because I wanted to hold it on hand. I wanted to make sure it was liquid, that it was very accessible in case an emergency happened. But putting away a certain chunk of money and just having it sit in a bank with almost no interest just didn't make sense to me. And so that's when I started looking into a high yield savings account. So when I first started looking into high yield savings accounts, to be honest, I was a little bit nervous because I knew it had something to do with the internet, and I was like, I don't know if I want to put my money to the internet. I didn't know if it was safe, and I just didn't really understand why are they able to offer such higher interest than traditional banks. And after some research, I found out that high yield savings accounts are normally offered by credit unions or banks that are run entirely online or have branches online. And the reason they are able to offer much higher interest in their savings accounts compared to traditional banks is because they don't have a lot of operating costs of traditional banks, right? They don't have the physical location that they have to manage the expenses of. And so in return, an advantage of that is they're able to offer their clients or their customers a much higher interest on their savings accounts. Otherwise, the savings accounts kind of functions just as a traditional bank savings account would be. In that, procedurally, there's not really a big difference. But again, they're able to offer a much higher interest rate, almost 10 times as much, because they don't have the operating cost of a traditional bank. Okay, so that in a nutshell is what a high yield savings account is. And here we're going to talk about some of its pros. So I guess the most obvious pro is that it is able to offer a much higher interest rate. Currently, the national average on a savings account in a traditional bank is about 0.5%, 0.50, and the average of a high yield savings account interest rate is 5%. So let's just put this into perspective. So if I had $10,000, you had $10,000 set aside for an emergency fund in your savings account. In a traditional bank where the interest is 0.5%, after the full year is over,
you're going to have $50 of interest.
In a high yield savings account, the same $10,000 is just sitting there. At 5% interest, you're going to have $500 that you gain back in interest after the year is over. And so there's obviously a much, much more opportunity to earn interest on money that was going to sit there anyways. My biggest hesitation about a high yield savings account, like I mentioned before, was, is it safe? Is my money going to just disappear somewhere if it's the World Wide Web? And it is safe. These online banks are often FDIC insured. What that means is if the bank defaults, if the bank fails, your money is going to be safe up to $250,000. So you are guaranteed coverage for $250,000 of your money in case the bank happens to fail. Another pro of a high yield savings account is that the money is liquid. And all that means is that it's on hand, that the money is easily accessible, that you can withdraw money, you can transfer more money in, you can move around money. And that is actually similar to savings accounts in a traditional bank. They're usually pretty accessible as well, but a high yield savings account also offers that accessibility. All right, so let's talk about some of the cons about a high yield savings account. So depending on who you decide to open a savings account, a high yield savings account with, there might be some fees associated with it. which means there might be some annual fees, or there might be some minimum balances, which means your account always has to remain at maybe $1,000, $5,000, whatever the minimum balance is. Some traditional savings accounts also have the same policy, but again, it's a con in both ways, whether it's a traditional savings account or a high yield savings account. Another con for a high yield savings account, which also applies to a traditional savings account, is that it's not the best place to build up your wealth. And what I mean by that is it's a great place to put away emergency fund money, and so that it's easily accessible and you can earn some interest on it. But if you're trying to build up your wealth, you're much better off investing your money, because while the interest rate is 5%, which is a sizable interest rate, over the long run, if you're trying to build up your wealth in a savings account, you're not going to beat the inflation rate and you're much better off investing your money. All right, I hope now you have more information on what a high yield savings account is, what are some of its pros and what are some of its cons. And if you are interested in opening a savings account, two institutions that I've used in the past is SoFi, and it's an online institution. It offers 4.6% on its high yield savings account, and it has no fees or no minimum balances. Another institution that I've used in the past is Betterment, and Betterment has a current promotion of 5.5% for a new high yield savings account. And again, it also has no fees or no minimum balances. I want to be very clear, I am not sponsored by either of these institutions. It's just something that I've used in the past, and it's very easy to open an online account. It probably takes 5 minutes. You fill out a form. It takes probably a day or two to get your account verified, and then you transfer in the money. It was a very easy process. So if you're looking for recommendations, those are two I've used in the past, and I've had a good experience with them. And that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe down below, and I'll see you next time.